Hello everyone, my name is Pshenichny-Mamo and I'm a PhD student at the Technion, Israel Institute of Technology, that is celebrating 100 years of science and technology achievements this year. And together with my colleague Chaya Ben-Simon and our supervisor, Professor Dina Tsybulsky, I will present you our research regarding pedagogy of practice approach to teaching the nature of science to in-service teachers. So, for the beginning, let's speak a little bit about the nature of science. The nature of science is a concept that refers to the definition of science, the way science operates, the relationship between science and society, and the identities of scientists within the context of their professional and personal lives. In educational research on the nature of science, it has been found that students' understanding of the nature of science improves and facilitates their learning of scientific content, enhances interest, and encourages critical thinking. Additionally, it provides tools for dealing with and correctly assessing scientific information. There is no doubt that in enhancing students' understanding of various aspects of nature of science, it is an important goal of science instruction. This can occur only when teachers are adequately prepared for teaching nature of science. However, our literature review revealed little mention of the way in which nature of science is instructed to teachers and their perceptions regarding the teaching methods for teaching nature of science in classrooms. So we had a question: what is the effective way to prepare teachers for teaching nature of science? Currently, there are two main approaches to training teachers regarding the nature of science. One of them is teaching philosophy, history, sociology of science in science method courses, which include explicit instruction on what the nature of science is and how to teach it. The second one is teaching about nature of science via visual representations of objects and processes. For example, schemes, figures, charts that represent different aspects of science and allow explicit and reflective discussion about the nature of science. We propose a different approach called Pedagogy of Practice. Design nature of science courses for teacher education frameworks according to Grossman's approach. This approach suggests three key concepts for understanding the pedagogies of practice: representation, decomposition, and approximations. We will provide more details about this approach and its connection to our research later on. So, to examine our suggestion, we conducted a research that aims to answer the following questions. The first one: how does in-service teachers' participation in nature of science course designed as a pedagogy of practice influence their nature of science teaching in science lessons? The second question was: after nature of science course, what teaching methods do in-service teachers consider the most effective for teaching nature of science in science lessons, and why? The study focused on the course Nature of Science in post-elementary schools in the Technion, which is one semester course including 13 two-hours meeting. 9 in-service teachers, 7 women and 2 men, took the course as a part of their studies for advanced degrees in science education. The teaching fields of the teachers were various, including biology, chemistry, physics, mathematics, and machine engineering. I will now present our course design as a pedagogy of practice, as I mentioned before. This approach suggests three key concepts for understanding the pedagogies of practice: representation, decomposition, and approximation. Representation refers to the different ways that the teaching practice is represented in teacher education. During our course, the participants were introduced to various narratives shared by the lecturer and the teaching fellow, which highlighted their practical experiences for teaching the nature of science in science lessons. Additionally, participants were exposed to a variety of lesson plans that effectively incorporated nature of science into instruction, serving as exemplars. The composition includes breaking down a complex practice into its constituent parts for teaching and learning so that the learners will mention the aspects of practice. In our course, the composition included an in-depth exploration of the theoretical frameworks, approaches, and teaching methods for effective nature of science teaching and science lesson. In our course, we focused on the following nature of science teaching methods: contemporary cases, theater and drama, historical narrative, narrative of inquiry, adapted research articles, popular articles, digital curation, authentic research labs, and citizen science. And we will speak about it more later. Approximation refers to the opportunities for teachers to engage in practices close to the real teaching in class. In our course, the teachers were engaged in a practical exercise designing a 35-minute lessons focusing on teaching nature of science. They then presented their lessons during a micro-teaching sessions, allowing for a viable peer-to-peer learning experience. This was a qualitative study, and the data were collected using the lesson plans, written reflections, and semi-structured interviews conducted a year after participation, and asked the teachers to share their thoughts regarding nature of science teaching in their lessons in retrospective view. Data analysis was conducted using thematic analysis. So let's speak a little bit about our findings. Just to remind you, our first research question was, how does in-service teachers' participation in a nature of science course designed as pedagogy of practice influence their nature of science teaching in science lessons? So, based on our findings, we identified two main themes that include the various ways in which in-service teachers express their nature of science teaching. The numbers indicate the quantity of expressions related to each sub-theme. So the first group of themes refer to ways I didn't do before, but I do now. And teachers stated in their interviews that those are the things that they didn't do before during their lessons, and after the course, they started doing them. For example, make connection between class material and contemporary cases, reference to nature of science aspects during class lessons, dedicate entire lesson to the nature of science, integrate articles relevant to studied subject, and emphasize nature of science aspects through them, and collaborations with scientists. The other themes refer to the ways that teachers did before, but now, after they took the course, they do them differently. And here we can create different discourses as a part of the laboratory lessons, increase the number of class discussions regarding how science works, change the teaching method of the research process, and add stories to science teaching following the various pedagogies presented during the course. Now I would like to present one example of each theme and a selected sub-theme. So for the theme I didn't do before, but I do now, and the sub-theme integrate articles relevant to the studied subject and emphasize nature of science aspects through them, one of the teachers stated, "The course has sparkled something new within me. It has expanded my horizons. For example, when I come across a new popular or academic article, I share it with my students, emphasizing that it results for extensive research and not a product of a single day's work." For example, from the theme I did before but I do differently now, and the sub-theme changed the teaching method of the research process, one of the teachers stated, "Following the course, I changed the way I teach the research process. Now, I emphasize to my students during different lessons how scientists move from stage to stage in different order, the flexibility of the research process, and the variety of the ways in which research can be done." Now I would like to present your findings for the second research question, which was, after the Nature of Science course, what teaching methods do the in-service teachers consider the most effective for the teaching nature of science in science lessons, and why? The teaching method that was considered by most of the teachers as effective for teaching the nature of science in science lessons was narrative of inquiry. Narrative of inquiry is a description of a sequence of research endeavors that are centered around a common theme. Other teaching methods that were considered by the teachers also as effective for teaching nature of science in lessons were drama and theater, and adapted research articles. Further insights into the various methods considered as effective are available in the following graph. Now I would like to represent you the teacher's rationale for the selection of teaching methods as effective for teaching nature of science during the science classrooms. So the first rationale is interest, connection, and relevance. And here we can see an example of teacher who stated that the most effective teaching method was digital curation. Using digital curation as a teaching method takes advantage of students' easy access to the digital resources, like online media and scientific information. Since students are so used to the digital world, this can help us to connect them meaningfully. So, digital curation can be a great way to teach. The other rationale is adaptation to the taught subject. And here one of the teachers stated that contemporary cases is the most effective method to teach nature of science. And the teacher said, the teacher can adapt this method depending on what is happening in the classroom or what they are teaching. For example, if I'm teaching specific topic that there is a recent example, I can bring it to the classroom. I can use it to teach students about the nature of science aspects. Alternatively, I can build a lesson plan centered around current and curriculum-related topics. The third rationale that I would like to represent to you is as adaptation for the teacher. And here one of the teachers stated that drama and theater was considered by her as the most effective teaching method to include during science lessons. And the teacher said, I was delighted to be able to incorporate my hobby of drama into my teaching and use it during the lessons. What brought me even more joy was that drama is a recommended method for teaching the nature of science. This way, I can write and act within the context of the lessons. The fourth rationale that the teacher stated was adaptation for the students. And here, one of the teachers spoke about two different methods to teach nature of science during science lessons: adapted research articles and popular articles. This teacher stated, in a stronger class, I can provide them with adapted research articles. However, I would use popular science articles when I teach students in a slightly weaker class. This way, I can teach them the aspects of nature of science I want to convey. And the last rationale for choosing the teaching method was preparation for academia. And here one of the teachers stated that adapted research articles are the most effective method for teaching nature of science. And the teacher said, adapted research articles are important to me because my goal is not only to teach, explain, and prepare for the final exams, but also to prepare students for what awaits them in the academia. It's about broadening their horizons. And now I would like to conclude our research. Upon finishing the course, the teachers expressed that they incorporate nature of science into their lessons by adjusting their current teaching methodologies and adopt new teaching methods. The teachers also described the different reasons for employing nature of science teaching methods. They explained how they increase their efficacy by making adjustments that enhance their ease of use and students' learning outcomes. So our final conclusion from the study was that designing nature of science courses as a pedagogy of practice for teacher education is effective and influential in enhancing both the teacher's perceptions and the practice of teaching the nature of science. So for the contributions of our research, by demonstrating the effectiveness of the pedagogy of practice approach in enhancing teachers' perceptions and practices relating to the nature of science teaching, this research contributes to the ongoing discussion on the best way to prepare teachers for teaching the nature of science. The study shows that this theoretical framework's effectiveness, enhancing our understanding of how theoretical frameworks can be translated into practical strategies for teacher professional development. For the applications of our studies, we have application for teacher preparation. The research underscores the importance of target professional development in preparing teachers to teach NOS effectively. By documenting the outcomes of this specific course, the study offers practical insights into how teachers' preparation program can be designed to address the challenges associated with nature of science education. I want to thank you for your attention. I'm really sorry that I could not be there personally due to personal issues. Please feel free to contact me by email if you have any questions, suggestions, or you would like to discuss our research. Thank you very much and have a nice evening.